Welcome to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Today we'll be talking to a number of people about topics of interest and importance to Michiganders just like you. Let's begin with what's making headlines today on CivicCenterTV.com's local news page. Our top story comes from Sarah Rahal at the Detroit News. According to metrics updated from the MDHHS on Tuesday, Michigan added just over 13,000 new cases of COVID-19, along with 181 deaths in the past week. Daily case numbers rose in that time about 9% to just about an average of 1,863 cases per day, an increase of about 160 daily cases from a week ago. That comes just on the edge of the end of the month holidays, where increased travel is expected to come just shy of pre-pandemic levels. Yesterday on the program, we mentioned AAA estimating 3.5 million Michiganders will hit the road for the holidays. As for hospitals and they're dealing with COVID-19, just about 4% of hospital beds are filled at this time with COVID-19 patients, a stark contrast to the 24% of beds filled at this time at the beginning of the year in January. Direct from this article from Sarah Rahal, quote, all Metro Detroit health departments are following Centers for Disease Control and Prevention guidelines that recommend indoor masking for public settings and K-12 schools, and closed quote. Also making headlines today on our website, CivicCenterTV.com, on our local news page from Lauren Gibbons at Bridge, Michigan. Our lovely Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission is back, this time in the courts, after suing the state of Michigan after legislators ended the political year without forwarding more funding to the commission in order to deal with its other ongoing litigation. In this particular case, the state's Independent Redistricting Commission argues that they need additional funding of just over $3 million. That's what they're suing the state legislature for, in order to accumulate funds to work on their ongoing lawsuits that stem from lawsuits that were filed against them regarding their maps for the updated districts across the state of Michigan for the state and federal positions. The Independent Redistricting Commission finished their maps officially in 2021, but have continued to meet periodically over the course of the last year plus in order to address these lawsuits and meet to decide on actions to take in each and every one of these cases. They say their spokesperson, in this case, their executive director, Edward Woods III, said that the commission would have preferred to have worked this out directly with the legislature instead of through a lawsuit. Instead, they're looking for just over $3 million to continue their work, in particular, addressing these lawsuits in the courts. Finally, making headlines today on CivicCenterTV.com's local news page. This is coming from the Detroit Free Press. A judge has ordered in the Michigan Court of Claims has ordered that Michigan State University needs to turn over its documentation to the Detroit Free Press from a Freedom of Information Act that stems from info regarding donations that were made by a couple of donors early on in the year, last year, in order to help fund the contract extension of head football coach Mel Tucker. The judge claims that these particular documents were not protected under privacy laws and would not affect, the privacy of these individual donors, in particular those such as Matt Ishbia and St. Andre, who are the two main donors in this case that had been argued in the Court of Claims. Michigan State previously refused to turn over those documents to the Detroit Free Press, now being ordered to do so within 10 days of this court ruling. Said Free Press lawyer Herschel Fink in a statement, quote, MSU's refusal to release the records was baseless, as the court found. It was a totally frivolous argument, as the court found, and there was nothing private to the agreements, and closed quote. Michigan State, of course, had argued that both Steve St. Andre and Matt Ishbia and their privacy would be violated in providing these records and making them public through the Freedom of Information Act. to the Detroit Free Press, in which Judge Brock Swartzel in the Michigan Court of Claims said, quote, MSU has not pointed this court to a single authority applying Michigan law that supports its contention that the amounts of the gifts, the payment schedules, or the donors' expressed desires for how the university should use the funds constitute private or confidential information. Both Ishbia and St. Andre made non-anonymous donations to Michigan State University, a public entity, and their subjective belief that the amount of those gifts would remain confidential does not establish that the agreements contain private or confidential information. The court concludes that the amount that a private individual contributes to a public university in a non-anonymous capacity does not reveal intimate, embarrassing, private, or confidential information about that individual, nor does the revelation of how the donor desires that the university spend the money. MSU cannot avoid FOIA, or the Freedom of Information Act, by promising a greater confidentiality than it can lawfully provide as a public institution, and closed quote. George Schwartzel did concur with the university that making these agreements public could have an impact on future donations, especially donations of this kind to the university, but said that there is no current exemption for donor agreements under state law that would protect this information from these two donors in particular, Matt Ishbia and Steve St. Andre. Of course, again, for context, these donations were made to the university presumably to help fund the contract extension for Mel Tucker, the head coach of the Michigan State football team. His contract extension, 10 years, $95 million. And a lot of scrutiny has come along with it from the national media as well as the local media because of the size of the contract, especially after MSU's performance in this past season. And it continues to come from the Detroit Free Press, who, for some reason or another, wanted to look into these particular donations and get more information on how they were made, what the amount was, how they're being paid to the university, and what they were directed to be used for by these two particular donors. More information can be found in this article and supporting materials from the Detroit Free Press by clicking through this article on our website, civiccentertv.com, on our local news page. We have a great show ahead on this Wednesday edition of the Megacast. Coming up next, we'll talk to the general manager of a local restaurant that opened just before the pandemic, had to shut down because of the pandemic, but has stayed alive despite all of that adversity. Coming up next, Dan Horchem will join us, the general manager from Smith & Company, on the Megacast.
Watch Civic Center TV with our brand new live captions. To turn on live captions, go to civiccentertv.com and click Watch Live. In your web browser, click on the Options tab in the top right and find the Accessibilities tab. Then just switch on live captions to heighten your enjoyment of our local programming. Thank you so much for watching Civic Center TV.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Wake up, Greater West Bloomfield. Start your mornings with The Splash and tune in for The Splash Live. Get acquainted with people, places, and activities that are live, local, and for you. First thing in the morning, weekdays at 9:30 a.m. on our Civic Center TV YouTube page, or watch us live at Civic Center TV or on Facebook. The Splash Live, Greater West Bloomfield's live update show.
Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Hey Laker fans, do you know a friend or neighbor that volunteers in Greater West Bloomfield? We would love to help you recognize them at the 51st Annual Michigan Week Awards. Countless members of the communities of Orchard Lake, Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and West Bloomfield give their time and talent daily without regard for recognition. You can help recognize these individuals and organizations at our awards breakfast next year on May 12, 2023. Nominate your neighbor or organization starting January 28, 2023. Go to michiganweek.org for details.
Let's savor these moments. Made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about our program on civiccentertv.com/Megacast, where you'll find more information on all of our partnering stations and click through to their links to learn more about all that they do throughout the other 23 hours of the day that they're not joining us live or live to tape for the Megacast, and find all of our full shows and each individual interview on demand as well. Again, the website civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Well, of course, so many restaurants were heavily affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, and while we lost many of them along the way, many have persevered as well and continue to modify, to pivot, to change their way of operating over the past couple of years as well. One of those restaurants is Smith & Company, and joining us now is the general manager, Dan Horchem, on today's edition of the Megacast. Dan, thanks for being with us today.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to have you on with us. First off, tell us a little bit about Smith & Company, about this restaurant, and what kind of experience people can expect when they go to your location.
Well, Smith & Co., we are a elevated brew pub with really kind of interesting and unique food that's both approachable and kind of exciting. All of our beers are brewed in-house at our sister brewery, named Rouge Brewery. So that's always really exciting. There's always something new on tap. Lots of different styles all the time.
More information can be found by searching Smith & Co. online. They have a new menu as well. And Dan, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about that menu. You just introduced it. What should people expect to find on this new menu, and why the change?
So since we reopened back in February, we've been just having a hard time just finding the right mix of food for everyone. So the biggest reason for the change is that we needed to have kind of more items for more people. We wanted the menu to be a little bit more inclusive. Some of the stuff that we were really lacking were like vegetarian and vegan items. And then the opportunity to install a pizza oven came up. So we took that and we've added pizzas to the menu, and they've been kind of flying out of the counter, and we can't really even keep up with pizza dough production at this point.
We're joined by Dan Horchem on today's edition of the Megacast. He is the general manager at Smith & Co., joining us on today's program. For those that are interested and might want to check out this new menu, where is your restaurant located?
We are in Midtown Detroit, right on Selden Street between 2nd and 3rd. The address is 644 Selden.
And you're also, you mentioned earlier that you have beer that's brewed in-house. You're actually the exclusive purveyor of beer from the Nain Rouge Brewery. How does that also add a more interesting element, or an attraction element to your particular restaurant in the Detroit area?
Well, I mean, it's great. Detroit has always been a great home for craft beer. So we just get to kind of add to that. We've got 20 taps in Smith and another 12 taps in the tap room itself. So right now, I believe we've got like 21 different beers serving. There's something for everyone. We hit every style we possibly can, try to keep them interesting and unique, yet approachable and kind of for all palates.
You can find more information on Smith & Co., as well as look at their new menu and make reservations by visiting their website, smithandcodetroit.com, smithandcodetroit.com. is the website. You can also call them 313-638-1695, 313-638-1695 to learn more information. And so tell us more about your location. Is it accommodating to larger parties if people would like to bring a large group down there here during the holiday season, or maybe they're having some last minute plans come together for a company holiday party? Tell us about your location and how it suits those sorts of get-togethers.
Oh yeah, the space is rather sizable, so we've got a lot of room for big groups, and everything is kind of easy to move around, so we can expand and kind of shrink depending on the needs of our guests. We can take groups of anywhere from a party of 2 to a party of 100. There's plenty of space. We've done restaurant buyouts too, where we close the whole place off for just the group itself. We can squeeze upwards of 250 people in here when we do that. Um, we have a lot of parties booked over the next few weeks, but there is still some space available. If you hop online and give us a call or check the reservations on the website, we should be able to accommodate quite a bit more.
Again, more information can be found, as well as ways you can make reservations for a large group or for your company, by visiting their website at smithandcodetroit.com. Smithandcodetroit.com is the website to go to for each of these bits and pieces of information. And so you mentioned earlier on, Dan, that your business here had just opened right before the pandemic, certainly had to deal with a lot of the ups and downs that many other restaurants in our local area dealt with during the pandemic. But all throughout that, you have survived and continued to operate and are switching things up at this time. What sort of lessons did you learn throughout the pandemic that have helped to inform these more recent changes now, and how you enact those and get the public interested in returning to your restaurant?
Oh, with the pandemic, honestly, and we've all heard it from plenty of restaurateurs over the past few years, really kind of forced us to get creative, and we kind of have to solve problems and prepare for a new style of service kind of every day. Every day is a little bit different, so we're always kind of preparing to do something different and trying new things. Um, the restaurant, when we were open before, wasn't really set up with a lot of carry-out options, delivery or anything like that. So that's something that we focused heavily on this time around, which has been quite a big thing for us. A lot of people in the local area are able to kind of get our food right to their door where they couldn't have before.
More information can be found from Smith & Co. by visiting their website at smithandcodetroit.com. That is smithandcodetroit.com for more information. You can also call them at 313-638-1695, 313-638-1695. And in terms of the new menu, for those that may be interested now, they've seen this interview, they've heard about your restaurant and want to make their way down there this holiday season, what are some of the things that you would suggest that they try at Smith & Co. as they go down there? What are your best suggestions?
First thing I'm going to say is any of the pizzas on the menu are fabulous. They're selling way better than we ever thought that they would. And it seems like we sell more and more every day. And the compliments and feedback that we're getting on pretty much every pie has been wonderful. Personally, I'm more into the sandwiches. We've got this vegan barbecue chickpea sandwich on the menu right now that's just great. As somebody that's not vegetarian or vegan at all, like, it's still my favorite thing on the menu.
You can find all that's on their menu, as well as more information across the board on their restaurant, including ways to make reservations, learn more about the Nain Rouge Brewery, as well as private events, by visiting their website, smithandcodetroit.com. Dan, before we let you go, anything else that we should know at this time about Smith & Co. or other points of interest that we haven't discussed yet today?
Nothing really, just that we're waiting to see everyone come in and try everything. The doors are open Wednesday through Sunday at 4. We're open till 10 Wednesday through Saturday, and then till 9 on Sundays. We've got happy hour Wednesday through Friday from 4 to 7, $5 draft beers, $5 smash burgers, and a few other fun items. That's it. Just we want to see you in here.
You can learn more information about their holiday hours as well, closed on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, but they are open for partial hours on both New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Find more information about Smith & Co. Detroit by visiting their website at smithandcodetroit.com. Dan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. More information, once again, can be found on the website, smithandcodetroit.com. We'll take a break on the Megacast. The holiday season is right around the corner, and as we get ready for the major end-of-year holidays, it means it's time to get ready for a major travel season as well. Joining us next to talk about what you should be doing right now to prepare for your travel across the state of Michigan will be Otie McKinley from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. That's coming up next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
My Michigan TV is streaming everywhere on Apple TV, Roku, Fire TV, and more smart TV apps. My Michigan TV is on your phone too. Take us with you wherever you go. Just search for My Michigan TV on your favorite app store or visit mymitv.com. All Michigan, streaming everywhere. My Michigan TV.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Wondering what to say to someone who's been sexually assaulted or abused?
I believe you. I'm so sorry this happened.
It's not your fault.
Confidential and anonymous help is available at the Michigan Sexual Assault Hotline. Connect with us 24/7. Call 855-VOICES-4 or text 1-866-238-1454 for help. Learn more at michigan.gov/voices4.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. You can learn more about our program, including all of our partnering stations all throughout Oakland County and in a variety of different areas of the county. We have in the Lakes area on Civic Center TV, of course, our flagship here in the greater West Bloomfield area, West Bloomfield, Kegel Harbor, Orchard Lake Village, and Sylvan Lake, as well as other areas of the Lakes area, such as the media network of Waterford, serving the Waterford area, of course, as well as in northern Oakland County, live to tape on Orion Neighborhood Television, as well as in central Oakland County in the Birmingham Bloomfield area, live to tape on Birmingham Area Municipal Access. You can also find us, of course, live on the radio on 89.3 Lakes FM in the greater West Bloomfield area, on 88.1 The Biff in the Birmingham Bloomfield area, and all across the state on the web, on your smartphone, and on your smart TV with a free My Michigan TV app, and online, mymytv.com. On our civiccentertv.com/megacast page, you'll also find all of our full shows and each individual interview on demand. You can watch the Megacast anytime and on your time right on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast. Joining us now on the Megacast from Michigan Economic Development Corporation is their media and communications manager, Otie McKinley, who's been with us many different times before to talk all about Michigan travel, and what a time of the year to have Otie McKinley on with us, as plenty of Michiganders are expected to hit the road again, not only statewide, but in other areas of the country and around the world this holiday season. Otie, thanks for being with us today.
Good morning, Tyler. How are we doing today?
Doing all right. How are you doing, Otie?
I'm doing great, thank you.
So we have a really interesting couple of weeks coming up here as we get toward the end of the year. We have the Christmas holiday coming up next week, followed immediately, of course, by New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. All across the world, and including here in the state of Michigan. Plenty of people are expected to travel this holiday season. The travel numbers in Michigan, according to AAA, expected to be right about just shy of pre-pandemic levels. An estimate of about 3.5 million people will be hitting the road this holiday season. So from your standpoint and from those and from others in the travel industry here in the state of Michigan, what are some of your top suggestions for people as they get ready to leave their homes potentially this holiday season and hit the road right here in Michigan? What should they be considering before they get out the door?
Well, Tyler, you're right. It is the time for travel. It is the time to spend time with friends and family, and it is the gift giving season. And as you mentioned, we're not 100% back to pre-pandemic travel numbers, but we are getting closer and closer, which is great news. People are getting out, supporting the travel industry, supporting the small businesses. But when looking at traveling this holiday season and throughout the winter, for that matter, it's incredibly important that we overemphasize people plan, schedule, make reservations, just because there are so many people traveling, and with potential staffing challenges, just make sure that you're reaching out, setting your schedule, making the reservations, to ensure that nothing impacts your travel or your experiences throughout the state.
Let's dive a little bit deeper onto that. Given the staffing challenges that our lodging industry has been experiencing all throughout the pandemic and in the 6 months to a year after the major parts of the pandemic have started to subside, just how big of an impact could that have on people if they're trying to book hotels or change some of their plans last minute, as opposed to maybe starting them or wrapping them up about now with a week or so to go until the major holidays?
Yeah, as long as people are planning what their activities and events are going to be, then everything's going to be fine. And we all know that last second changes happen, and people adapt and accommodate to those changes. As you're looking at this time where maybe some people have some time off work, just getting out and exploring some of the great parts of the state, both our dynamic city centers like Detroit or Grand Rapids, or the more traditional up north vacation where people are heading to some of the ski areas, some of the resorts, water park areas, just to enjoy the time with friends and family. This is the time of the season where people are able to do that. And when you are out and at restaurants or small businesses, just be kind to those that are working at these establishments. It can be a tough time because people are busy, and if they're understaffed, the challenges aren't gone yet. And so remember that they are there helping make your experience and memories to the best of their ability. And so we just remind people to be kind, and always, as I say, when you are out traveling, support the small businesses, not only the restaurants and hotels, but during this gift giving season, support the local businesses in either the communities you live or the communities you're traveling to.
When you think about this time of the year, or really across the calendar year, those major travel times, you think about Thanksgiving and the December holidays, Labor Day, Memorial Day weekend is another big one. And each of those different times of the year comes with different traffic concerns and different varying times when people may leave their homes in order to travel to their destinations here in Michigan or in other places. And so that can also have an impact on people's ability to travel effectively and travel efficiently. And especially this holiday season with what we're expecting weather-wise across the state of Michigan over the next week as well. What suggestions do you have, or does the Michigan Economic Development Corporation and Travel Michigan have in terms of, what are those times people should be aiming to maybe make that move from their home to their destination? Are there particular days that are in the past or typically bad days necessarily to travel because of increased traffic?
Well, there's never bad days to travel, right? There are more congested traffic routes on certain days, but I think it's just kind of the common things where, certainly check the weather forecast to make sure you're not getting yourself in trouble. And if there's going to be a particular day where the weather looks particularly bad for driving, maybe leave a day early, maybe leave a day late. Let our colleagues over at the Michigan Department of Transportation make sure the roads are nice and clear and safe for everybody. But ultimately, I think just going along the lines of safety is never be in a rush, right? Make your arrangements that fit your schedule, and when you get out on the road, be safe, pay attention to the weather. Wouldn't hurt to go to the MDOT website to make sure you're aware of any construction areas. As we get later into the winter, those continue to decrease, but during the heavy traffic times. It's always good to know where you might run into some backups due to the construction.
And as they're making these decisions, often last minute decisions, depending on the weather, that can also affect their travel itinerary, especially when it comes to lodging. They may have a specific check-in date and time range. If that is going to be changing because of the weather affecting their ability to travel, what steps can consumers take in order to protect those plans and hopefully not lose out on that hotel room or those other plans they maybe have had on the docket that might have to change in these scenarios?
Yeah, I think that there's a number of different ways that those variables can impact travel and your, in this case, hotel accommodations. I would just say make sure you're reaching out to the hotel, see what their policies are due to weather constraints and cancellations, or checking in a day later, say. But just make sure you've got all the information available to ensure that your travels are impacted as little as possible. We know Michigan roads can get a little slick in the winter, but again, just be safe. And people need to make the decisions they need to make to ensure their vacation goes off without a hitch. And safety is generally at the forefront of that. So just work with the hotel, see what their options are, and worst case scenario, if you do need to book a night in another hotel until your original hotel gets or made available, sometimes those need to happen. And just sometimes understanding that your schedule can be a little flexible is always a good thing to have in your back pocket.
More information can be found on different places to go this holiday season, different activities to participate in by going to Michigan.org. Michigan.org, a good place to go, and also across the state of Michigan's various department websites to deal with traffic concerns. You can go to MDOT's website for that to learn more about traffic projects, and of course, check in with your local weather authority as well to keep up to date on weather reports. We're joined by Otie McKinley on today's edition of the Megacast. He is the Media and Communications Manager at the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, which oversees Pure Michigan, on today's edition of the Megacast. And with a few more minutes with you today, Otie, as we are getting toward the end of the year, we're in the thick of the holiday season. There's plenty of fun activities to engage in community to community. Where are some of those locations? Of course, Michigan.org is a great place to go, but other locations, maybe locally, you would suggest that people are looking to if they're trying to participate in some of these holiday activities that are fun for maybe themselves, maybe a couple, or even the entire family?
My wife and I just spent a weekend down in Detroit, and what an incredible experience that is with the Cadillac Lodge and all of the pop-up markets. If you're looking to get in the festive mood, go to downtown Detroit. It is just an amazing experience. Certainly, the number of restaurants with just fantastic dining options really is something that surprises us every time we go down there. It seems like there's a new restaurant opening every time we get to Detroit, which is a great problem to have, trying to decide which restaurant we want to go to. But it also, on the other side of the state, the Muskegon Sports Complex with the luge and the ice skating is another great day trip to experience winter in southern Michigan, or southwest Michigan in this particular case. But also, as we are getting close to full ski season, ski areas across the state from southeast Michigan to the western tip of the UP is always a great opportunity for family to spend a weekend together, getting outside. But not only downhill skiing, right? With cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, tubing, fat tire bike riding, ice skating. There's just so many opportunities when you get into some of these ski areas that they offer in addition to skiing, just to make sure everyone in the family is having a great time and experiencing what that particular ski area or resort has to offer.
Of course, you can find more information on a variety of activities across the state of Michigan by visiting Michigan.org. Michigan.org is a great place to go to find attractions all across the state of Michigan, including in the Detroit area, as well as downtown this holiday season as well. We're joined by Otie McKinley, Media and Communications Manager with Michigan Economic Development Corporation, which oversees Pure Michigan, on today's edition of the Megacast. Otie, before we let you go, a few more minutes left. Anything else that people should be considering as they're getting ready to finalize their holiday travel plans or getting ready to enact those holiday travel plans in the next couple of weeks?
We kind of chatted about it a moment ago. Just remember to be safe. Plan ahead and be willing to have flexible schedules based on any number of variables that may impact those. But also, as we get really into the depth of the holiday shopping season, again, I just want to reiterate the importance of supporting local businesses throughout the state. For more information on how to support local businesses, and again, that might seem kind of counterintuitive, it seems pretty straightforward, but I recommend people going to michigan.org/shop local or support local. My apologies. When you are making a purchase in one of these small businesses, 68% of that dollar, every dollar spent, stays in the community. So when you think about the number of people that could potentially be buying holiday gifts for friends and family throughout these small businesses, the impact is incredible. Again, not only for the communities in which the businesses are located, but certainly the shop proprietor and the employees that work there. So we want to continue to remind people, when looking to buy gifts for this holiday gift giving season, think about supporting the businesses in the communities in which you live or the communities in which you travel to.
More information can always be found on michigan.org for both this holiday season and traveling across the Great Lakes state all throughout the year. Otie, thanks so much for joining us.
Tyler, have a great one. I appreciate it. Look forward to chatting with you soon.
Yes, we will chat with you very soon, and a happy holiday to you as well, Otie.
Be well, sir.
Michigan.org, the place to go for all your information on travel across the state of Michigan, both during this winter season, the holidays, and all across the calendar year. Michigan.org, the place to go. We'll take a break on the Megacast. On the other side, there's plenty going on in U.S. and Michigan politics that's affecting you right here in your hometown as well. Dave Dulio will join us from Oakland University, professor of political science and director of their Center for Civic Engagement, as we wrap up 2022 and begin 2023 in a year of immense change, both here in Michigan and across the union. That's coming up next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Watch Civic Center TV with our brand new live captions. To turn on live captions, go to civiccentertv.com and click Watch Live. In your web browser, click on the Options tab in the top right and find the Accessibilities tab. Then just switch on live captions to heighten your enjoyment of our local programming. Thank you so much for watching Civic Center TV.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Wake up, Greater West Bloomfield. Start your mornings with The Splash and tune in for The Splash Live. Get acquainted with people, places, and activities that are live, local, and for you. First thing in the morning, weekdays at 9:30 a.m. on our Civic Center TV YouTube page, or watch us live at Civic Center TV or on Facebook. The Splash Live, Greater West Bloomfield's live update show.
Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Hey Laker fans, do you know a friend or neighbor that volunteers in Greater West Bloomfield? We would love to help you recognize them at the 51st Annual Michigan Week Awards. Countless members of the communities of Orchard Lake, Kego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and West Bloomfield give their time and talent daily without regard for recognition. You can help recognize these individuals and organizations at our awards breakfast next year on May 12th, 2023. Nominate your neighbor or organization starting January 28th, 2023. Go to michiganweek.org for details.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about our program by visiting civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find more information on all of our partnering stations across the state, including our co-flagship My Michigan TV, and find all of our full shows and each individual interview on demand as well. civiccentertv.com/megacast, the place to go for all of that information and more. Joining us now on the Megacast is a professor of political science at Oakland University, where he also serves as the director of their Center for Civic Engagement. Dave Dulio is back with us once again on the program today. Dave, thanks for being with us.
Hey, Tyler, good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you as well. Things started to slow down a tiny bit on the political realm, but certainly have taken a little bit of a push forward as we get toward the end of the year and begin a year of change in 2023. I want to talk about, to begin today, the impact of a pretty, on the surface, minor change in the U.S. Senate that could have major implications going into 2023, as U.S. Senator Kristen Sinema from Arizona undeclaring her party affiliation with the Democrats and now becoming an independent. How might that affect Democrats, particularly in the Senate, going into 2023, especially now with Republican control of the House of Representatives and those numbers in the Senate being still pretty close to where they were this year and in the past few years?
Yeah, I think it's going to have minimal to no effect. You've seen certainly Senator Sinema say that she's declaring herself an independent rather than a Democrat. But what does that mean in practice, right? And from all the signals that have been given from the senator herself that she's going to continue to sort of behave the way that she has legislatively. She's always been kind of a thorn in the side of the Democrats and Senator Schumer as the party leader there. So she's going to continue to do that, but she's not going to lose her committee assignments. She's not going to stop caucusing with the Democrats. They're still going to have 51 votes, and I think it's going to go on so almost as quote unquote normal, if you will, for how the Senate operates these days. It seems that it might be more of a political and campaign move than anything. And that's because there's been talk of at least a couple Democrats in Arizona wanting to challenge her in a primary. So if she's not a Democrat, she doesn't face a primary challenge. She would just be on the general election ballot as an independent. And, that could really change the way the next, the 2024 Senate election in Arizona plays out.
Yeah, it's certainly going to have an impact there if she continues on as an independent. We've seen in the past that there's been sort of that argument between, well, should we have another person joining in and that may be affiliated with one party or another as a third party? How could that affect the party that they've previously been affiliated with and potentially set them up for a case in this scenario, maybe where those votes are split between the Democrats and an independent incumbent like Sinema? All of a sudden now you have another Republican senator coming in the state of Arizona. So definitely some interesting developments there in Arizona affecting U.S. politics in the future. At the state level, we've got news that came in late yesterday, from the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission, filing a lawsuit against the state legislature for about a little over $3 million to continue on with their work, which is interesting to the average citizen considering they finished their maps well over a year ago. So first, Dave, what are they still working on?
Beats me. I have no idea. They're meeting tomorrow, I think, as a commission. So maybe that will shed some light on it. But that's a lot of money for. I'm not sure what we're getting for it. I mean, I think the commission is going to have to defend itself and say this is what you're going to get for the $3.5 million. I mean, I think most of it goes to salaries and benefits for some of those associated with the commission. So I think it's a fair question to ask. Sort of what's the return on investment here.
Yeah, and part of the argument that's been made, and this is from an article from Sarah Ray Hall at the Detroit News earlier on this week, late yesterday. Beth LeBlanc from the Detroit News earlier on yesterday, is that this $3.17 million budget was in order to help them continue on dealing with some of the lawsuits that remain ongoing against the commission regarding their maps, but now they add a new lawsuit to that as well for over $3 million. Their work has been completed, so it does seem to be like there's more of a lack of maybe understanding of just how far this commission should be going in the work that they do, which I would think is to be expected considering this is the first time a commission like this has operated statewide.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point, right? And the first time you do something, there's always bugs that need to be worked out. And maybe this is one of them where there's no sunset in the Constitution now for when the commission starts and ends its work. And maybe that's appropriate if there happen to be lawsuits that extend beyond a particular time. Maybe they have to keep doing that. But I don't know of any that are still pending, and the maps are in use, right? We've had an election with their maps. I mean, I suppose somebody could file a lawsuit in the aftermath. I think there's actually been some discussion of that or some threatening of that based on some results in terms of minority representation. But there's got to be a way to handle that where it's not we're going to fund you for the entire year, right? I mean, where the commissioners would be drawing a paycheck from the state every week.
We're joined by Dave Dulio on today's edition of the Megacast, the professor of political science at Oakland University, where he also serves as the director of their Center for Civic Engagement, making big national news over the weekend and late last week was finally the return of Britney Griner to the United States after being released in a prisoner exchange between the United States and Russia. She had been over there detained on drug charges for several months in Russia, and in the end, the United States exchanging a Russian arms dealer who had been imprisoned here in exchange for Griner, who is now back on U.S. soil as of earlier on this week. Dave, just to dive into the politics that goes into these sorts of negotiations, because there's a lot of argument being made too about another American, a local here in Oakland County, Paul Whelan, who is still imprisoned in Russia, and negotiations for his return to the United States have not been quite as successful as they were in the case of Britney Griner. So on the political side, from your knowledge, what sort of how tight of a line are our politicians, our leaders towing as they're making these negotiations when an American is imprisoned overseas, especially when they believe that's an imprisonment that's not quite legitimate?
Sure. I think that's the $1 million question right now. And what were the negotiations? We'll probably never know. And I think the politics of it though is it was tough for the Biden administration in terms of the weight maybe of both sides and what they got, right? I mean, and of course the United States is never going to want to leave a citizen, whomever that is, in foreign custody when they don't think that they're being treated fairly, or maybe if there's human rights violations, or if they're wrongly imprisoned. But you look at what the United States gave up, and you can kind of understand the questions that are asked, not the criticisms, but just the questions. Hey, did we trade away too much? This guy, the arms dealer, has certainly been trading in weapons that have gone on to be used to kill Americans. What was the negotiation? Was it a demand from the Russians that it's a 1-for-1 swap and you pick, or was it only, hey, we'll give you back Britney Griner for this guy? No mention of Paul Whelan, a veteran, a Marine who has been in Russian custody for, I think, 4+ years. So I think it's fascinating to watch. I do think that the Whelan family has helped calm the waters a bit by coming out in support of the prisoner swap, and saying that they understand that the U.S. government's doing whatever it can to get their loved one back. I do think it's and maybe I just missed it. I don't think so, but it's interesting that Britney Griner hasn't made a statement, hasn't come out publicly to talk in the wake of her release. I think a lot of folks are waiting for that to happen to see how that goes.
Yeah, certainly Griner, a public figure for her affiliation with the WNBA and her prolific college basketball career as well. And Paul Whelan, in this case, a much more independent citizen in that regard, during his imprisonment and continues to be imprisoned in Russia at this time. Dave, just before we let you go, a few more minutes, an interesting poll came out this week from Epic MRA out of Lansing regarding our presidential politics, particularly here in the state of Michigan, looking into 2023, a big year on the presidential front as we approach 2024. And from both parties, really interesting to see that kind of the figureheads of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party over the last several years, not garnering a whole lot of interest for 2024 from the state of Michigan. This poll showing that 60% of Democrats in this poll said they would prefer somebody other than Joe Biden running for president in 2024. Similar numbers from the Republican Party and Donald Trump, where 47% of those polled on the Republican side would rather see somebody other than Trump. Just how big of a year is 2023, particularly for these two candidates, should they both decide to continue on pursuing the presidency going forward? Of course, Trump already declaring candidacy for 2024 and Joe Biden yet to announce any decision on whether or not he will run for re-election.
Yeah, I think it's a big year, right? I mean, they've clearly got a lot of work to do to bring folks around to their side and garner some additional support. I think it really ultimately depends on what the rest of the field looks like. And on the Republican side, we kind of see how that's going, right? With Ron DeSantis, clearly, I would say the top non-Trump alternative at this point. Does Ron DeSantis continue on that trajectory? Does he decide to not get in the race? That would change things dramatically. And on the Democratic side, it's really, does anybody have the guts to challenge a sitting president? I think that's a long way to go. And if Joe Biden decides to run for re-election, I think it's his. And even the steps that were taken in the last month or so to restructure the Democrats' primary process helps him do that. And I think that it all signs point to a Biden run. But is there somebody in the Democratic Party that would stand up and say, "Hey, thanks for your service, Mr. President. Time to move on to somebody else"?
And also something to consider, should Joe Biden decide that he does not plan to run for a second term, is it going to be Kamala Harris that steps up and says that she's going to then run for president? You have someone challenging the sitting vice president for the nomination, or who else rises up? Plenty to be considering as we go into 2023. Dave, we are just about out of time. I want to thank you for joining us, and of course, wish you a happy end of the year, and hopefully plenty of interesting conversations to come in 2023 at the Center for Civic Engagement.
You can count on it, Tyler. Thanks for having me.
Oakland.edu/CCE for information on upcoming events and discussions through the Center for Civic Engagement at Oakland University. That will do it for today's edition of the Megacast. Big thank you to all of our guests for joining us, as well as our dedicated crew, Calvin Brown and Jared Clark at the studio of My Michigan TV. That does it for today's program. We'll return soon with a new episode.